pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Roll call, please.
Trustee Blower.
Yes.
Trustee Patterson. Present. Trustee Yordi.
Yes. I'd like to move for the adoption of motion 22-124 to dispense with reading of the minutes from the July 7th, 2022 regular meeting and July 11th, 2022 special meeting. I need a second.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call, please.
Trustee Patterson. Yes. Trustee Blower.
Abstain.
Trustee Yordi.
Yes. I'd like to move for the adoption of motion 22-125 to approve the minutes of the July 7th, 2022 regular meeting. I need a second.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Trustee Patterson. Yes. Trustee Blower.
Abstain.
Trustee Yordi.
Yes. I'd like to move for the adoption of motion 22-126 to approve the minutes of the July 11th, 2022 special meeting. I need a second.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Trustee Patterson. Yes. Trustee Blower.
Abstain.
Trustee Yordi.
Yes. Fiscal officer reports, Julie.
All righty. Thank you for your consideration this evening. Will be the certifications of purchase orders written and checks written since last meeting, and all of the trustees have a line to sign on. My apologies for those in the past. Also in front of you tonight for your review is our appropriations status report through end of business yesterday. It actually says July 22nd, but I ran this through July 20th, so that is more accurate. Also for President Yordi to sign the first financial credit card attestation for the month of June. A little later in the meeting, there were a few items for your consideration. First would be a resolution for increased appropriations for Fire Fund 2281, and this is due to the insurance claim that we submitted for the roof at the fire station, and it's for an increase of $16,374. There's also going to be on that same resolution for Fund 2273, which is the American Rescue Plan funds. We get a little bit of extra supplemental from entities that did not claim their rights to ARPA funds. So we get an additional $1,745.95. And that was the addition that came with the second tranche that we received. Also for your consideration later in the meeting will be a resolution to establish a new fund. 2905 is the fund number, and this is the One Ohio opioid settlement that we are included in. And the amount that we're going to be receiving annually is $2,262.14. It is my understanding we will receive this amount for 18 years. While it's not a lot, collectively over time, we'll have about $36,000 to do something with at some point. And I feel like along with the ARPA funds, as more discussions come around with other townships and other municipalities of how they're spending their One Ohio opioid money, we might be in a better position down the road to make those determinations. Also later for your consideration is a motion to approve the payment for hours worked by Jared Morris of the fire department on our AV installation. And it is my recommendation that he be paid from the general fund for those hours, as he was not currently on duty for the fire department at that time, nor should he have been, as he was doing the work here in this building for the meetings. So that is my recommendation. And then I have two, in addition to all of that, we had a situation arise with one of our two TIFs here in Ross that were established by Ross Township. It's Town Center TIF. It is a 100% 30-year TIF, which means there is a school compensation agreement that must be adhered to. And it occurred to me that I hadn't made any payments, nor had I seen any payments. So I started digging into it. And it's kind of a strange situation. The first tax year that it would have been eligible for funds was 2009. We didn't get it till 11. And then the housing market crashed and the values fell. And so there was no increment for 3 or 4 years. By the time it kicked in, really, I think it just fell off of everyone's radar. And I will say that at the school district, we've gone through 3 treasurers, 3 superintendents. We have gone through, we're on our 3rd administrator. None of the parties are present who were present when this thing was penned. So I called Ross Schools, explained the situation. They were grateful that I brought it to their attention. They reviewed my documentation and my working of what I felt we owed them. They basically, it's a made whole, it's a make whole agreement. So I had provided the treasurer at Ross with all the tax rate schedules and all the TIF schedules from the auditor's office, and he concluded with my calculation. So later in the meeting, or actually now, depending on if you want to discuss it now or whatever, but I do have a purchase order requests to make them whole for tax years 2009 and then 14 through 20. There will be an additional payment, 2 payments this year for the first half settlement. It's about $315. And then the second half will be about the same amount. But the purchase order that I'm putting in front of you exceeds the amount that the administrator is allowed to sign off on. So I'm having you sign off on the request for the purchase order this evening, and then I will make the school district whole. And then we'll be on a normal schedule for making the compensation agreement like it's supposed to be. So that's the long-winded version, and I apologize for that. I'm just grateful we caught it and are able to reconcile it now. And then I also did some, I know a little later in the meeting, there'll be some discussion about the SRO contract with the school system. I worked up what I believe to be is what they owe us for the 21-22 school year. I wanted to share that with you all, and it also gives you a pretty good idea of what the salary portion of that is and what the benefits portion of that is. And that's all that is for you to help you later in the meeting. And at that, I will stop talking unless you have questions, comments, or concerns.
Anybody have any questions at this time?
One, going back to the explanation of the Ross Town Center TIF, you gave the date of the years of 2009 through 2011. Was there money owed for that amount of time?
The first year that the base year for the TIF is 2008 tax year payable 9. You have to, and this is where I slip into my old auditor ways.
Okay.
The first year we were entitled to any kind of an increment was 2009 payable 10, but with filing the exemption applications with the state of Ohio, that first year, there's usually a delay, and going back that far, it was like 18 to 36 months at the state level.
Okay.
So by the time they settled it, it was already calendar year 2011, and that was for 9. But there wasn't an increment for tax years 10, 11, 12, or 13 because the values had fallen across the board. And then there is a large disparity on the years. You'll see it the first year, it didn't generate much, and then it generated like, the portion is like $5,700, and then it falls drastically. And I asked the auditor about that. And 2000 is for 2017 tax year, that was a revalue for the auditor, and they drastically reduced the value of that property. And I even questioned that, saying, well, that at that point it had split because the original owners sold off a good portion of it, and it's still in the TIF, and they sold it for $1.1 million, and the whole thing is only valued at like $175,000. But they assure me that that's the method. Until it develops, they're going to keep a very conservative value on it, and I do understand that. I do understand their logic. I don't like it, but I understand it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to the administrator, Lori Kyle.
Good evening. Tonight, administration has two resolutions for your consideration. One is an expenditure authorization to utilize ARPA funds for road repair. As indicated in the journal, the county commissioners have said that they are going to provide some ARPA funds to the townships for road repair, but just in an effort to move forward to get estimates on Morgan Ross Road and Smith Road's paving next year through the engineer's office. Knowing that it's going to be a large expense and whatever they forward to us won't be enough, we would ask you consider the approval of ARPA funds for the entire project for both of those roads. And the second resolution is nuisance abatement on two properties, one on School Road and one on Bella Vista Drive. Pictures of those properties are in your packet. The one on School Road is a large tree that fell during the storm. It's been cut up, but has not been stacked properly and is a bit of an eyesore, and the other is just excessive debris. If you have questions about either of those resolutions.
I have none.
And as pointed out prior to the meeting, we are testing our new audio visual system this evening. I'd like to extend a thank you to Jared Morris for the diligence that he has provided in getting this installed. And not only did he install it well, he also cleaned up after himself.
Mostly. Don't open that door.
So we will all be interested to see the outcome of the recording this evening. Apparently, it's supposed to have some artificial intelligence that over time it will become a more exact system and can do some functions up here to make it clearer. Right now, all I'm seeing is the ceiling up here. So,
I got all of you, don't worry.
okay,
I got all of you.
perfect, perfect. So if you happen to have any questions about the system, please direct them to Jared. In your packet is information from Compass Point Planning. You wanted to know if there were any other services that she might be able to provide should zoning be approved at the ballot this fall. So that is before you. I did respond to her asking, you had thought that it might be a good idea to have a pre-review of what serving on the board of revisions would mean for any potential candidate. So I did respond to her asking if that is something that she would be able to do, and if so, what that cost would be. I've not heard back on that yet. I have received an email message from Zach Bohannon with Congressman Warren Davidson's office, letting you know that Warren Davidson will be in the district in August and the first part of September, and wanting to know if you would like to set something up to meet with him. The fiscal officer suggested once again, possibly the road department being first responders, bringing that to his attention might be worthy of a meeting. So if you would like to see if we can make that meeting happen, just let me know. And finally, there's a nuisances update in your packet. In regards to the property on Lark, I have received 2 estimates. I drove by there this morning. Nothing has been done, so I feel certain I will be reaching out to one of those entities tomorrow to proceed with taking care of that property. And that's all that administration has this evening.
Anybody have any questions for Lori?
I do not.
No questions. Congressman Davidson's always very available when he's in district, and they try really hard to get him to communities and to businesses. And so if you want to talk about this now or later or click on it, if there's some benefit to inviting Congressman Davidson around.
We may as well do it, as long as somebody can be here.
Yeah.
Because
I'd like to bend his ear on that subject we talked about.
Maybe maybe Zach can put together or can help Zach put together a business visit and some sit down call, and somebody needs to be here and coordinate some schedules if that's makes sense.
We do have an interesting business here in the township, Mean Green Mowers, that possibly
Yeah.
they might be interested in visiting.
Be good.
Okay. We'll move on to the fire department.
The only thing Chief Miller had on the agenda today was notification that our part-time firefighter Ryan Lucas is deployed to the Middle East for 8 months. He's in the reserves in the United States Air Force. Just everybody keep him and his family in your thoughts and prayers while he's over there for the next 8 months. That's all I have.
Thank you. Road department,
I have something I'd like to
Okay.
ask the Assistant Chief. With the two recent active shooter incidents that have happened in the last 3 months, the most recent about 80 to 90 miles away from Ross Township, has the fire department trained on how to respond to an active shooter?
The last time we did any training was with the police department down at the schools. How long ago was that, Chief? 2 years?
That was before me.
Was it before you were here? It's probably been 2 years ago, but it's probably something we need to revisit and make that a priority.
Okay.
anything else?
If you're, when that comes about and that training's set up, if you could shoot an email to the board. Thank you.
Yep.
That's all I have for me.
Road department, Paul?
Give you a paving update. Went to a meeting the other day. They're behind a little bit farther than they thought. They will be out the week of the 8th, August the 8th, to start milling our Brown Farm and up where we're getting paved up there. And then about 2 weeks later, they'll pave it. And the black mat portion of it, they plan to start on Monday on Ross Millville. That road will be, if they get to without it raining, that road will be down for about 3 hours. So they'll close it, and it's the quickest way to get it done. Hopefully the rain holds off, they can get those two jobs started. We have Morgan Ross closed for culvert repair. We've finished one culvert. We're really close to finishing the second one. We'll finish it on Monday if it's not raining. Move on to the third one. I do have Adam Davis out with COVID this week. His whole family's got it, so, let's see.
Voting on it.
Only other thing is, on behalf of everybody that drives the road and pays taxes, I want to say thank you to putting that money on the ARPA money toward paving. It just keeps the road department being able to keep the quality roads up that we like. So thank you.
I got a question. That may be way off. The trees down here on Hamilton Cleves and right by, Ronnie Watson's and the curve there.
Yeah.
I know that's Fairfield Township. I know it's a state highway. But it's happened 2 or 3 times where it's been major closed down. Who do we contact to tell them to come out here and cut those trees back? Do we get in touch with Fairfield?
It's ODOT's right away. And I've been told, if you remember the bad accident that happened, Brown Farm 126,
Mm-hmm.
they told me that they were not, something to do with the EPA would not let them trim trees before October. Yeah, I don't know. That's what I was,
Or was it the bats?
please.
The Indiana bat?
I don't know. He didn't tell me.
There are some things like you either want it, you got to do it spring or fall, but you can't do it in the summer because it's a
Yeah.
protected bat.
Because I contacted Shane and, said, hey, I don't know if you heard about this accident, but it is a little rough to see there. And he said he's not allowed to do those kind of trimmings until October. So that may be what they're holding off for down there. I don't know if that's if that's the reason for down there or not. I can ask him.
It's terrible
I know it is.
and it just keeps falling.
That mower would do wonders down there, but I can ask him if that's the holdup or for something else, but
Asking, maybe we can get on a list.
yeah.
Or we could call Fairfield and tell Fairfield, because when that stuff happens, don't we respond to it?
Depends.
Township doesn't come,
If ODOT can't get there, we do, but yeah,
you would,
I've never seen Fairfield out there.
yeah.
We had one down on Hine Road this morning, a very large tree went across the road. Nobody, a homeowner called me about it. Nobody even knew about it, but it had the road completely blocked.
Okay. Any of the road closures, Lori, can they be put on the website so that people, so that
We
they,
already have,
okay.
Ross on.
And what, there was another one.
Ross Millville will only be for about 3 hours and they notified the residents and the business there ahead of time. So I don't know.
It's not so much the residents, it'll be the people that are
Right,
coming to it and like,
yeah,
duh.
right.
So anyway, that's probably should be on there, just so people know, so they, I think.
Is there a way for me to be notified when they do actually close it?
I mean, we can be notified, yeah.
So I just put sometime next week. It's gonna be closed for 3 hours, probably Monday.
Yeah, weather permitting Monday.
I'll do that.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the police department. Chief Roberts.
Like I mentioned earlier, we'll talk, we have the MOU for the Ross School District for you to decide if we're gonna move forward with that. Officer Little, provided a gun safety class for the Ross Country Day. They were very appreciative of that. Officer Hale is off of probation now, effective June 17th. And the Honor Guard has been asked once again to do a Reds game. So on July 31st, they're going to be doing the Honor Guard at the Reds game. Southwest RV was broken into. This is the third business that we've where we're having a bunch of catalytic converters that are getting stolen. It was out Southwest RV. I think there were 7 RVs that were broke. They cut the catalytic converter off. The week before that, Wendell Green Motors, they took catalytic converters off of some of those vehicles. And then actually last night, Berniker Brothers had a couple taken off of their vehicles. We have some video of the persons that have done it. We put it out on Swap Intel, so we're trying to figure out who else is getting hit. I just spoke with the chief of Fairfield before a meeting today, and they've had the exact same problems. They have some videos as well, so we're going to see if they're related or if we can get any. The description of the vehicle that was used on the one over here on Berniker was like a Toyota Camry. It was black in color. That was just one individual that did it. He was there for maybe 3 minutes. That's how quick they were able to do it. It's just a quick little Sawzall power tool and wham bam. And it's about $1,000 for every catalytic. And it's just being in the right place at the right time, unfortunately. A little update on the break-in of the pharmacy. That same night, when we put it out, the information out on Swap Intel, apparently the city of Florence got hit by the exact same people. Looking at the surveillance cameras and everything, it matches the exact same 2 individuals that hit our pharmacy. So still investigating that. And the last thing is we've switched to a 4 and 2 schedule. That's 8.5 hour shifts. So it's going to be rotating off days for the officers. So some pay periods they'll work 85 hours, others it's 76.5, and every once in a blue moon it'll only be 68 hours. It just depends on how the off days fall and any particular pay period. So Julie and I have been going through some hunger pains with this, trying to educate on how that all works and everything. But that's what we're doing right now, just trying to get the best bang for the buck and getting as many officers out there at a time and overlap and shifts the best that we can, and especially with the vacations and everything in the summertime. That's what we've been doing. And really, that's all I have other than the MOU whenever we talk about that later.
You want to talk about it now
That's perfectly fine.
as well?
Before we move on to that, Chief, I have the same question for you as the fire department. Do you plan on an active shooter update training?
Yes, actually, Sergeant and I have had numerous conversations about that. We haven't done a practical one, I believe, since they did that full scale one with the fire department and everybody, but we have done some trainings that are not the actual practical ones, but it's videos and educating them and stuff along those lines. But definitely we need to make that happen sooner rather than later, just because of everything else that's going on in the world that we live in here right now. So yes.
I believe the city of Hamilton has an instructor in that, from what I was told recently.
Yeah,
But,
we have instructors with that as well.
Okay.
And actually, we've reached out. Monroe has this, actually, it's pretty impressive what they have. Have you ever seen their simulator they have up there?
I was in it last week.
That
It's
is
extremely impressive.
Amazing. And I mean, there's so many features that come with that. And I've spoken with the lieutenant about us being able to go up there, and they are open to it. So we're trying to make that happen as well. But we have a few officers out here on vacation right now. But yes, we are definitely going to make that happen. It's pretty impressive. So.
It is. It's a 360-degree simulator that the officer can dictate the situation based on how the officer in the simulator is responding.
Yes.
And so they can make it as easy or hard on you. They can put certain dialogue, certain actions, certain weapons.
Computer on a screen like the driving simulator?
Oh, yeah, but it
But it-
literally is, it's 360. It's
They
the,
can have someone
it's the
come in
entire
behind
room.
you. It's very cool.
I mean, you can do the entire OPATA, actually, course of fire shooting other than the shotgun. I didn't see it with the shotgun, but I mean, it's just amazing. And they can pull up, you can make it shoot, don't shoot. They can pull up your policies and procedures, case laws. I mean, it is just impressive,
A
to say at least.
opportunity for all departments to.
100%. And they're very open.
Being
to
very
letting
good about it, yeah.
other agencies come up there and use it. And I mean, with the cost of ammo, and even if you can find ammo, I mean, it's great.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, thank you.
If I could jump in real quick before the SRO, the catalytic converters is all of Southwest Ohio
Oh, yeah.
with it. It's not just us or this area. It is, they are slipping into car dealerships and taking out a whole line and out of there in 10, 15 minutes. And it's just what it is.
I mean, it's just,
Nothing against you guys at all. It really
Right.
is hard to.
well, I mean, it just goes back to the drug problem that's going on in the world when you can just cut off a catalytic converter and they don't really screen you when you go to scrap it and stuff like that, which are, depending on where you go, some people will actually obey the law and others don't. And for $1,000 for something that takes 2 minutes to do it.
And then thank you for the Ross Country Day presentation.
Oh, thank you.
They support a lot of police departments in this area. So kind of nice to see them go full circle with that.
Right. Thank you. So about the MOU, so the agreement that we came with the school is we would pay David's benefits.
Oh, no, I need to build.
Because the agreement was before, when the school would have them, they would pay his complete salary, benefits and everything. With the financial issues that the school was having, this was part of our compromise, that we would pay his benefits and reduce his hours as far as for the overtime. That his hours could be flexible, because the biggest problem that was causing the overtime is letting the school buses in and out every day. And actually there was 68, give or take, expulsions they had at the school. So he was involved with a lot of the investigations and everything, which was causing some overtime. But the part of when it comes to the school buses, we told him, I said, those school buses were coming in and out of that parking lot way before we ever had an SRO up there. So there may be days where we're not going to be up there and be able to help them get out on the 128. But we got to reduce his overtime that he was getting every pay period. So they were been on board. David's been made aware of that. So we're going to eliminate that part as far as the overtime. But there's going to be some overtime just because of some of the investigations that he has to do with welfare checks and, like I said, all the expulsions that were taking place and stuff like that. So this was the best compromise with Julie, Lori, myself, and the school administration when we met, that we thought was a fair and equitable deal between our administration and their administration. So that's what we came up with. Because either if we're not up there or we don't have an SRO up there, we're going to be up there. I mean, there's just so much stuff that's going on up at that school, unfortunately, that we will be up there. And right now I don't have the officers that can spend 8 hours a day, every day, hanging out at that school and dealing with their expulsions or whatever else is going on up at that school. So we need to, especially with everything else that's going on in the world, like we talked about earlier, we have to have a police officer up at that school.
Okay.
If and when the school is made whole again with their levy, will we revisit this healthcare issue at the, for the, what would that be, the 23-24 school year,
Correct.
next spring?
Yes.
Okay.
We,
But nothing else has changed from the packet I have from 2019 that I compared this with.
Correct. Yes. And this is to be moving forward here once everybody gets with the levies and everything, that gets all resolved.
Yeah.
Hopefully these are like 5-year contracts and not just, we're not doing it annually or whatever, and we can make it a more permanent basis and when everybody has a better grasp on their finances.
Thank you for the work that was done to keep him up there. Everybody.
we'll move on to public participation. First up is Dan York.
Let me go back there. I just.
Sure.
Basically, I'm just asking about, where do you guys stand on this Burns Farm thing? Are you endorsing it? Are you promoting it? The three of you.
I don't know that there's any in promotion or endorsement. I'm not sure I understand.
It's a yes or no question.
Right. Could you explain?
There's a contract, there is a contract with Mr. Bass to basically be the liaison between the contractors and whatever and you guys. And we've been told for the last couple of years, every time that somebody asks, not me, because I've been pretty supportive of you guys up to now. And, but every time somebody asks the question, where is this at this point? The answer was always, we don't know. Now, if you got a guy that you're paying $30,000 every 6 months for to do this work, and he's not telling you anything, it's time to fire the man. Okay? If I don't do my job, I get fired. That's the way life works. Now, if you guys are doing that, and you've been supporting this and you've known these things all along, then that means you guys have been far less than truthful to the people of this township. And you're only pushing for one little segment of the township. When you're elected, you're supposed to be elected to represent all of us, even those that disagree with you or that you disagree with. Now, if you can't do that, maybe you should resign. You know, I mean, I've gone out here for the last 2 or 3 years and I've stood up for you guys in ways, and then to find out that, you know, I was just being a dumbass, pardon my language. I don't like that. I don't like that. What is this? Washington, D.C.? Let's go do what we want to do because we got elected and we can. If you want to turn this into Westchester West for whatever reason, that's wrong. You want to be in Westchester? Go to Westchester. Of course, you ain't going to be the big fish in a little pond in Westchester. So you might want to take a look at what people really want instead of what you want. Now, as far as the zoning board, I've been on board with that thing since it started. Not anymore. Because if you guys are going to be the ones to appoint the people for that board, I'm done. And I will do and voice my opinion wherever and whenever I can. Now, I didn't want to come in here and make this all personal, but it is personal. That thing's set up for $500,000 homes. There was nothing on that paperwork from that meeting that you guys had. Nothing on there for the average family that's making $65,000 a year. Not one thing. You're catering to a bunch of people that aren't even here yet. How about you take care of the people that are? Now, I've said my piece. I'm gonna take my hat. You guys need to straighten up. Your integrity level is in the crapper. Mostly you.
Well, don't leave. Let us reply, please. Okay, well, then we can't
What are you
reply.
gonna do? Tell me a lie?
No,
You've been lying for 3 years.
please sit down and let us answer your questions. We heard your speech. Now, please give us an opportunity to answer your questions.
Go
The
for it.
last thing I got was building it where somebody can make $60,000 a year and move over there, correct? That's the last one that you just asked.
No,
I- Yeah,
there's nothing in that whole process, in the whole development that is set up for a person or a family making $65,000 a year. Nothing.
okay, let me reiterate on that. Right now, over in Venice Crossings, right across Lehigh from the Burns Farm, there's nothing over there in the retirement homes that go for under $500,000. They're over $564,000. I'm astounded by that. Go up to the top of the hill and phase 3, 4, or 5 of Ross Trails. They're going to be averaging between $400,000 and $600,000 up there. I just took a ride up on my bike last.
Those are already there. There's nothing we can
That
do
is
about that.
correct, but
There
that-
is something we
that
can
is
do
the
about
market.
Burns Farm.
That is
We can
the market.
stop it.
We can't stop the sale of it. It's between a developer and a seller. We can't get involved in stopping the sale of the farm. That's against the
You know,
law.
Keith,
Yes, sir.
bikers, never refer to yourself as a biker because a biker will stand up and a biker will tell you the truth. You don't.
Okay.
I'm done with you guys.
Have a good night.
See you later, chief.
Anybody want to respond to that? Okay, Kitty? Dick Stevens? Russ,
Yeah, I'll speak to that a little bit.
you want to go to the podium, please?
A little differently.
No, we've always done it that way, I think.
No, I
We
think
tried.
he's gonna speak a little differently.
Bob Bass was actively employed by Ross Township as administrator from May 2010 to May 21.
Correct?
Part of his duties was included but not limited to assisting to promote and negotiate the successful acceptance and execution of the development of the properties collectively and commonly referred to as the Burns Farm, Ross Township. Also correct. His contract. Lori took over that position subsequent to Mr. Bass's retirement. In March of 2019, Bob Bass and Tom Wilsey traveled to Manheim, Pennsylvania, just outside of Lancaster. In a trustee meeting 3 months later, maybe 4 months later, August 5th of 2021, Mr. Wilsey used the quote, "We don't know what we don't know," when referring to the Burns Farm development. But according to the township documents dated 3 months earlier in May of 2021, what Tom Wilsey and Bob Bass did know was the name of the proposed development to be Miami Trace. Has that ever been talked about? No, it hasn't. Lori's salary for the good job she does in Ross Township is $65,000. Since Lori took the position upon Bob Bass's retirement, Bob has been contracted through a personal services employment agreement with Ross Township Trustee Board. May 21 to June 22. The terms of the agreement totaled up to approximately $50,000. I don't know if he was paid that much. That was the terms of the agreement. And that's based on an agreed upon rate of $75 per hour for approximately 667 hours. I don't have the information that would extend his services beyond July 20 or July 30th, 2022. Surely it would be approximately that rate. Here's the math. Bob Bass has so far been contracted to work 667 hours approximately during a 14-month period for approximately $50,000. That comes to $833 a week divided by 75 hours. Means he's worked on the project for a little over 11 hours per week for the last 14 months. There's no question that Bob Bass is exceptional at what he does, and I like the guy. Based on Lori's salary of $65,000 and assuming she works 40 hours a week, her hourly rate's $31.25 per hour. And until May 2021, her position included what Bob Bass is now being paid $75 an hour to do. Ross Township residents, as approved by this trustee board, are now paying Lori Kyle to do the job of township administrator, which until May 21 included promoting and negotiating the successful acceptance and execution of the Burns Farm development. As well now paying Bob Bass in the subcontractor role to do what he's doing in part as an administrator. Both positions are now costing Ross Township residents approximately $108,000 per annum plus benefits to Mrs. Kyle. Reference only, that would be in the range of $500,000 on our tax burden. Has the board at this time changed their position at all on the development? Their support of the development.
I want to give you a chance to get all your questions out and then, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for the deep dive. And I'm going to say, yes, I think that's all approximately right because I wasn't here. So it sounds right. Sounds like what I've seen. I don't know that there's a position yet on that development. There's still a lot of questions and trying to figure things out. And for at least me personally, there's a lot of other stuff to figure out. Now we're turning to that. If the question is the two contracts, I think is really where the majority of your question is coming from. Is that right? Okay, understand. But then as follow-up information, Bob's contract has ended. There was a short-term contract to do a little cleanup for him over the last, this 30 days, a 4-hour contract.
Be extended at any point, or is that?
I don't know that that's something that we can get to until we figure out some more things about that property. I think right now that contract is set to end at the end of the month. And it was a courtesy extension to allow some loose ends to get wrapped up. And I think that's the professional way to treat people that have given a lot of time and effort. And, if that's where it ends, we wanted it to end on good terms. If there is a need as the township takes on zoning, and certainly that takes some administrator time away from things. And as, sometimes you need more than one person. I think that's always out there. $75 is a very competitive consultant rate, right? I think that's a big point to be made. But
My point was,
the challenge is, how do you have that contract and make sure you got the right deliverables tied to it? And I think that's where the board is right now.
what defines deliverables?
That's what we need to work on.
Okay.
Yeah.
But as a resident, if you weren't there, would you be in support of such a development? A hotel across from the school and all of the other high density that is in that?
I think there's a lot of layers to that. It's hard to look at any one piece of it. And
All of the people that I talk to, and believe me, I talk to a lot of people. People answer yes or no. I mean, I get a yes or a no. I know there's left, I understand that. But in theory and the way that the development stands now, do you support that in a vote? If there were if zoning allowed that to happen, and there were a referendum put on the ballot, which I promise you will, if it goes that way, would you vote for or against a referendum?
you're asking for my personal vote? You're asking how I would personally vote? Look, we're not going to do the back and forth, right? That's probably not the venue for that. So I think we've answered the questions. Bob's contract has wound down. Right now, there's no immediate plans to extend that. And we are doing that because we are very appreciative of his work, but also very sensitive to making sure that there's value behind all those contracts.
Bob is a very nice guy. I like him.
Absolutely,
I may not agree with him on this, but I like the guy.
absolutely.
And a great career at what he does. I just, to echo kind of what Mr. York was saying. There's a lot of people that feel this way, and I don't think that can be discounted or minimized. I know everybody's not a big fan of social media, but there are people that comment on there that do make intelligent, well-thought comments. And then there's the people who say stupid things.
Run us out of town with pitchforks.
I know. Scratch that off.
We're getting rich. Silly things like that.
Frankly, when they say that, conversation I had with him today, I said, I don't believe that. I can't in my heart believe that, because I would never do that. But I think the people us would like to hear what your opinions. I know you can't stop the sale from Mrs. Burns, Strauss to the Kaufman. Do that. But I think supporting it from a board standpoint, or not supporting it, tells the people of Ross where you stand. I think they'd like to hear it.
And we appreciate that feedback.
Oh, thanks for the work you're doing. This looks great.
He's sitting in here. He's not out there sweating. It was his ideas, though.
Information you gave me, you're awesome. It's fantastic. Thank you for your work.
Okay, anybody else?
Get any more cards, did we? Nope, that was it.
Okay, we'll move on to old business. Any from the board?
Nope.
New business. The Butler County Zoning Department is conducting a work session at Hanover Township Administration Building on August 17th at 1 p.m. to go over the most recent decision by the prosecutor's office as it is related to the removal of junk weeds, debris, and/or junk motor vehicles that constitute a nuisance. Is that open to the public?
You know Jim Fox, it was a short and sweet message. He didn't say.
And had an explanation of what was going to happen.
The last time he did one of those work sessions, he did not allow the public in because there was
That's
public
right.
there.
You're right.
Yes.
So I guess it's not then. Okay, we'll move on to announcements. Public use of Ross Township owned buildings does not necessarily mean that the Board of Trustees support the subject matter of the meeting or the event. Anything else from the board? I think this is
What brought
stemming.
that up? When I,
This is stemming from the school using fire station in Millville
okay,
as the headquarters.
all right.
Any correspondence? Move on to resolutions. In order to financially allow for the storm damage repair to Fire Station 102, insurance claim funds must be added to the fire department's 2022 financial budget. And in order to financially allow for the use of the final installment of supplemental funds that were received, additional funds must be added to the American Rescue Plan Act funding. This resolution add those funds. I'd like to move for the adoption of Resolution 2022-041, amending revenue and funds and requesting an amended certificate of estimated resources from the Butler County Auditor. I need a second.
Second,
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Patterson,
Yes.
trustee Blower,
yes.
trustee Yordi.
Yes. Earlier in the meeting, Police Chief reviewed the need to amend the SRO agreement with Ross Local School District. This resolution amends that agreement. I'd like to move for the adoption of resolution number 2022-042, amending the agreement with the Ross Local School District, outlining the work tenants and a job description for a full-time police officer, school resource officer within the police department. I need a second.
Second.
Roll call.
Trustee Patterson.
Yes.
Trustee Blower.
Yes.
Trustee Yordi.
Yes. Earlier in the meeting, the administrator provided evidence of nuisance violations to exist at properties on School Road and Bella Vista Drive. This resolution declares those properties to be a nuisance and orders their abatement. I'd like to move for the adoption of resolution number 2022-043, declaring a nuisance for debris and/or excessive vegetation at 2525 School Road and 2451 Bella Vista Drive. I need a second.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Patterson.
Yes.
Trustee Blower.
Yes.
Trustee Yordi.
Yes. Earlier in the meeting, the fiscal officer discussed the need to authorize an ARPA project expenditure for road repair. This resolution authorizes that expenditure. I'd like to move for the adoption of resolution number 2022-044, authorizing expenditure from American Rescue Plan Act funds. I need a second.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Patterson.
Yes.
Trustee Blower.
Yes.
Trustee Yordi.
Yes. As a financial housekeeping measure, the fiscal officer is required to have the board, by resolution, establish a special revenue fund for money collected from a specified source other than the general fund. This resolution establishes that type of fund for specific abatement strategies from funds located from the One Ohio Plan. I'd like to move for the adoption of resolution number 2022-045, establishing a special revenue fund number 2905 entitled One Ohio Opioid Settlement, requiring that money collected from a specified source other than general fund be paid directly into said special fund, budgeting receipts and making appropriations for expenses, and requesting an amended certificate of estimated resources from the Butler County Auditor. I need a second.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Patterson.
Yes.
Trustee Blower.
Yes.
Trustee Yordi.
Yes. Okay, I'd like to move for the adoption of motion 22127 to pay the bills as presented through the fiscal officer's certificate of purchase orders. I need a second.
Second.
Roll call.
Trustee Patterson.
Yes.
Trustee Blower.
Yes.
Trustee Yordi.
Yes. I'd like to move for the adoption of motion 22128 to approve payment of hours worked by Jared Morris on AV installation to be paid from general fund 1,110,119,000 other salary trustees office. I need a second motion.
Second.
Roll call.
Trustee Patterson.
Yes.
Trustee Blower.
Yes.
Trustee Yordi.
Yes. I am not going to be here for the August 4th meeting. Is that something we can move to August 3rd or August 2nd, or do we?
Either one's good.
Checking. Do the third, it looks like.
Yes,
Yes. I could do the third.
August 3rd.
Can you guys? I'm good.
Okay, so I'd like to, we'll go on to the next executive session. I'd like to move for the adoption of motion 22129 to retire to executive session to discuss the employment, promotion, or compensation of a public employee in accordance with Ohio Revised Code 121.22G1. The time is 6:55. And then we'll come back out. And I want you all to know that the next meeting will be August 3rd at 6 PM.
Do we have a second on that?
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Second.
Thank you.
Call?
Trustee Patterson?
Yes.
Trustee Blower?
Yes.
Trustee Yordi?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bring 'em.
No, it's still on.
Not yet,
I'll let you sign.
not yet,
Sideways.
for people.
I want that.
That street's like through Orchard Park. You see where the stadium is?
No, you said
Yeah.
Mic's on. The mics are on.
Mics are on.
Okay.
Well, we, time. Are we coming out or was there any?
Okay, we'll come out of executive session. It is now 7:55. I need a second, a motion,
Second?
roll call.
Trustee Patterson,
Yes.
trustee Blower,
Yes.
trustee Yordi.
Yes. There being no further business to come before the board, I'd like to move for the adoption of motion 22-131 to adjourn the meeting. So I need a second,
Second?
roll call.
Trustee Patterson,
Yes.
trustee Blower,
Yes.
trustee Yordi.
Okay, next meeting is August 3rd. Thank you for changing that.
Oh, no problem.
Enjoy your retirement.